Do you think that CEOs should be executed for failures? No.
Not executed.
No,
I've been told not to say that. Basically, we're going to be talking about
the E word out.
Well, you can say execute. It's not a swear word. It's a total joke. I'm vehemently against capital punishment. I have to say that. Anyway, we're going to be talking about layoffs and CEOs not facing any consequences and whether they should. And what do we all think about that?
We will not be executing any CEOs.
No, we won't, Peter.
What are we talking about, Mike?
No,
do you want to set it up for us?
I always say I love work reform stories. So
yeah,
this story from Business Insider, which actually kind of surprised me. I'm shocked that Business Insider would write this. I almost think it has to be an opinion piece by somebody who's not like actually a Business Insider writer or something. That's crazy.
Not anymore, anyway.
Saying CEOs should be held responsible and employees are paying the price in the form of all these layoffs, which is totally true. I'm shocked that that's Insider's take.
It's pretty cool, though, isn't it? I mean, yeah. And I think we should follow up with, I don't know, jail sentences for CEOs that allow data breaches. And I don't know, perhaps even go as far as the death sentence for
Okay, Peter.
Let's
talk about where this is coming
it's
from.
The natural scale, right? You start off with firings, then you put them in jail, and then there's.
Why have we gotten? Okay, we don't need capital punishment for. Jesus, but
I don't agree with capital punishment. By the way,
this is a really good take. This is a really good take at the current corporate world as of today and what is happening in it. Most people that are watching probably know that every company in the tech industry, left and right, are either already doing this or are talking about doing this, and this being layoffs. We're seeing cuts between 5 to 20% across the board from all major companies in the tech industry.
Major tech companies,
and also major tech companies, but also it's starting to spill into other industries, but really it's tech. We're seeing it in tech. And the reason we're primarily seeing it in tech is because the excuse of we overhired, reason, whatever you want to call it, we overhired for COVID because everything was booming and we needed more hands on deck. And now we realize that we are dumb. I don't know what the word is best to use.
I mean,
we made the wrong decision.
Seasonal businesses do that all the time.
Some companies, but that's an expectation, I guess. But here's one thing I want to touch on. There's a few companies where it makes sense. If the COVID tech boom or bubble is, I guess, what it's becoming now. If the COVID tech bubble caused a company like Zoom to explode overnight, which it did, we all knew about Zoom. Zoom was kind of sketch, and we knew they're sort of based out of China-ish, and they're kind of scary. Zoom was kind of scary. And then all of a sudden, everyone is on Zoom. Yeah, you're going to panic hire. You're going to overhire because you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Zoom just announced layoffs a couple of days ago from when we're recording now. And the CEO is taking supposedly a 98% pay cut for this year. I'm going off of memory. And no bonus.
So what's the less explainable example?
You mean like instead of...
You said for Zoom, some companies it makes sense. What's the other side?
Sense-ish, kind of, sort of makes sense. Other companies that could they could survive this wave by cutting costs in different places. I don't have a name. Like, I don't know, maybe Microsoft. I don't know. Microsoft hired 40% more, right? They increased their workforce by 40% during COVID, and they cut, what was it, 10% just now? So they're still at a 30% surplus since they started that hiring spree. But it feels almost like
peer pressure.
Is it fair to say coordination or coercion, at least, maybe. Like, I don't know. It's like
I genuinely think a lot of it is peer pressure. It's like company CEOs kind of looking around, seeing everybody else doing layoffs, and then going, "Oh, perhaps we're spending too much on staffing or whatever," and going, "We should probably cut a few just in case," and to look good to the board, safe. Like make sure that we're not coming across as being over, arrogant or whatever. I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
Those are all interesting takes.
Okay.
I think there was overhiring during COVID. I think some investors are coming to their senses. Somebody shared in Discord yesterday a video that talked about how somebody shared in our Discord server a video about how Discord, the company, is making all their money from investors and user growth, but they don't actually have a revenue model. I think, well, that's every tech company on the planet, basically.
Yeah.
But I think investors are kind of like getting to the point where they're saying, "Hey, when am I gonna? What's my exit strategy here?" So I think there's tightness there, but really, it's companies have no obligation to have employees, and they only have employees if it's going to make them more money than it's going to cost them. Hiring is a function of greed, right? I want to be able to sell 1,000 of these things instead of 100 of them, and I have to hire 2 people to do that. So reluctantly I will, even though it's going to cost me more money to do that. If a company has an opportunity to cut costs, human labor is their most expensive cost. They are absolutely going to do that.
But human labor cutting human labor means messing with people's livelihoods. And I think that's the difference of saying we're shuttering our campus. No more. We're switching to work from home. We will accommodate you if you need to leave your house to work at a WeWork office or a shared space. But we are going remote. That cuts the cost.
It's all going to come down to, well, so 2 factors there. One, ultimately in the long run, it could actually save them money to do that. So that leads back to the other problem, as preamble, they're going to cut costs one way or another. The other issue is that in capitalism, American capitalism, global capitalism, we are 100% focused on the short term. The CEO's responsibility is quarter over quarter growth above everything else, because if he misses a quarter once, maybe he survives it. If he misses a quarter twice, he's out. So his only incentive is to be ruthless about growth and profit.
So going back to the article, right? I agree with the premise of the article that we should execute any CEO that doesn't perform.
Damn it, Peter. He's joking.
Exactly what Business Insider is calling for. It's not Peter's position. That's what Business Insider is saying.
Yeah, I don't make the rules.
But I actually don't think, I'll tell you what, I don't think that the CEOs be held accountable? Should leadership of the company? No need to even point the finger straight at...
The point I wanted to make was, sorry, John.
Go.
The point I wanted to make is the way that they're putting out these announcements is that they're saying, "Oh, I take the responsibility for the fact that we overhired during this period, and now we're facing cuts and everything like that." And as a result, I don't know, making a token gesture or something. And sometimes they don't even make a token gesture. And I forget his name, but the CEO of Google was quoted as saying, "I take full responsibility. I'm accountable for the mistakes that the company's made." But really, it feels like the 12,000 people who got fired are actually being held accountable because they're the ones that are having the real impact on their lives.
They're feeling the consequences, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones who are dealing with the consequences of his or their mistake. And that's why I think it's easy to place blame on a single person or make the person the scapegoat. But I think that a lot of high like what am I trying to say? People on the leadership team and executive teams are usually also the ones who should share the blame. It should not just be like, I'm the chief operating officer, it's all my fault, oopsies. And then also when the CEO takes the blame, I don't think that firing or leaving is the solution, because this is a super valuable lesson for every leader that's out there. Is maybe they shouldn't be doing that. Maybe they shouldn't overhire as extremely as others. My point here is, just because this article almost has the right idea. Yes, they should be punished, but not in the form of leaving the company. They should be punished
And
for
certainly not executed.
Okay. But you can execute their salary and their bonus. And
the thing that where they get all the money though is the stocks. It's not just
that's what I was going to say. And to
cash.
target their share percentage of the company.
One issue is it's always the employees that are going to pay the price.
Of course, yeah.
If a CEO makes a mistake, he's going to be fine. And look, if there are lots of small businesses. Small business is a tough term because I think the U.S. defines a small business as any company having like less than 5,000 or like some crazy high number of employees. Thousands.
I think.
No, way higher. It's thousands. 200 to
5,000. I think is medium.
No,
5,000 or above is large.
No, it's well over 1,000.
I'll do some live. Yeah, I'm doing some live.
Google it while we're live. So there are let's even just call them micro businesses, a dozen employees. If the business fails, that CEO is feeling it just as much as the employees. But by the time you're talking about these enterprises, it's a slightly different story. You know, the employees are going to be the one who bears the burden. But to Peter's point about personal responsibility for data breaches, for example, if that was in this recording, I know Peter said that at some point. I think it was.
They should be should face the death penalty. Yeah,
exactly. Peter. Oh my God.
So that's the other one factor is the extreme focus on short-term growth. The other factor is the complete lack of personal responsibility in publicly owned corporations, because the CEO has no skin in the game. He either makes a shitload of money or he has no risk at all. He just walks away because can't be held personally liable.
I think they always make a shitload of money, right? They always get golden handcuffs of some kind, right?
I'm just saying the worst possible downside is they just walk away with no personal risk because they're running somebody else's company. They to them it's just play money. They win either way. They're playing with house money. Right. And that and the short-term focus on growth are maybe among the biggest problems that capitalism has right now, the way it's currently running. And
we I like to reference Japan as a perfect example of I think they're also fully capitalist. A capitalist country that has changed things. And what they changed is that they don't focus on short-term growth. They focus on super long-term growth. Traditionally, not sure about, maybe some companies do short-term, but this is kind of like a thing that is happening in Japan. That is when you talk to your shareholders, you say, here's my 10 to 20 year plan for running this company.
Then again, Japan has issues of its own. Not really. That's a whole other topic. That was a thing that I posted the other week, which we didn't get into. There was an interesting announcement, though, this week on February the 7th about Nintendo planning to raise its employees' base salary by 10% this year in wake of inflation. Which is like good, well done. It's the opposite of what other companies are doing, which is like saving the company and not caring about the employees. But they're doing the opposite. They're investing in their employees, which is another alternative.
John, what did you find about small business? You might have been right.
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't right. I found 15. It's a what was it? Up to 1,500 people, varies by industry. That has fewer than 1,500 employees and a maximum of 38 million in average annual receipts. No, you were correct. It is an absurd number for labeling it as a small company. But I did want to say that regarding these layoffs, it feels like also back in the day, before my time, you would join a company and you are committing to this company. The family ideal of the American company was real. This was real. When an employee passed away, the whole office or floor or whatever would grieve. They would actually grieve together. This was real, and you would stay there until you retired, and you would take your 5%, 10%, whatever annual increase in pay until you hit that 50, 60 mark, and then you would take your pension and retire. And what we've now seen in the last 10 years is this new attitude from workers, which is, you're not good enough for me. They are. Bye. After a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years, where previously people would universally agree that leaving a company with less than 4, 5, 6 years on the resume was a death sentence for your career.
Yeah,
now we have employees leaving every 2 years, some every 1 year. So this also reflects, I think, the changes that they are feeling. They're like, you're not as committed already, all of you. Universally, you're not as committed to us. So we're not as committed to you as an employer by 10%, 20%. And the sad part in that is that we are seeing Google veterans, Microsoft veterans, all of these veteran employees who started 15 years ago were just let go. Like, they did commit to that whole family, I'm here for life, style, and didn't matter in the end. They were let go with an automated email and an access card decline.
I think the decline of labor membership also contributes to that, but that's a whole other debate. So go ahead, Peter.
I think I've gone through different phases in my career. Like right at the beginning, I bounced around all over the place because I could get a massive pay rise by going somewhere else, because I was part of a bubble, I think. And, tech talent was really hard to come by. So then I went through a phase of like actively not giving, like not feeling that the company was not my friend and they're not going to be my family. I think that was after I saw a whole bunch of layoffs and people kind of like callously cast aside. And I think even though I bounced around, I was really committed and I worked long hours and I tried to do a really good job. And, there was that kind of tech hubris thing of like wanting to show off and be seen as, awesome. But then I got more kind of callous towards everything. And these days, I kind of just do it for myself. Like, I do love my job at the moment, and I love the company, and I think the culture is great. But the question I always ask myself is, and I think I probably work more than the 40 hours a week or whatever. But the question I ask myself is, if I got fired tomorrow, would I be bitter about working more than is expected of me or required of me? And as long as I can always say no, I wouldn't be bitter. I wouldn't regret it. Then I'll keep working at the same level. So it's my internal gauge.
I think my final message to capitalism is figure it out.
Figure it out.
I can't do it.
Give your balls a tug.
Give your balls a tug.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
perfectly executed.